self-pity can cause us to make excuses. Excuses for ourselves or to focus on why we can't do something. And again, you know, like you said before, we all have things that we are dealing with. You know, but we have to come to the realization that we want to move forward. Right. There are really only two choices. Either we're going to stay in self-pity, we're going to stay with the excuses and become stuck, or we're going to take those excuses, or we're going to take that negative circumstance and use it as a stepping stone. You know, the thing, because we can move forward. If someone else can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, and to go back to the definition that we've given in the beginning of self-pity being regret for oneself, and all of us have something in our lives that we do regret. Okay, but we don't have to stay with the regret. It's learning from it. As a dear friend of mine used to say all the time, that's why they put erasers on pencils. There are going to be things in our lives that some of them we cannot change and some we can. Okay, but it's knowing the difference, and being able to take those things that we regret and be able to help someone else, okay, so that they don't fall in the same situation. Mind you, we have to realize that there are consequences for things that we do. You know, if I've been warned about something and I'm determined to do it my way because nobody understands me and woe is me in this situation. And then when I get out there, there are consequences for it. And many times we don't want to deal with consequences.
Definitely. You know, I'm just thinking, you know, about what you were saying. Negative emotions can give us a wrong view of ourselves.
Absolutely.
You know, because when we talk about self-pity, it's all about us, and our view of other people can become distorted.
Very much.
You know, she thinks she's all of that. No, it's not that she thinks she's all of that. You think that she's all of that, and you don't feel good about yourself. So it's not her. You know, it's not him. Who did he think he is? It's not him. It's you. You know? So again, self-pity can have us going through life always being on the defensive.
And resenting other people. That distorted view bring in resentment. You know, who do they think they are? All right. Who am I to judge who they think they are? You know, and in most cases, they have not made any statement to say
they
this
just
is
came
what
into
they
the room,
think, to say what they think they are. You know, so we need a renewed mind. We need a transformation of the mind and a renewed spirit is what it's all coming down to.
The self-pity can also make us think that we are weaker than we are. Because if I'm always looking, what's that saying, the grass is always green on the other side. If I'm always looking at the grass on the other side, I'm neglecting to look at my grass. You know, again, God has placed strengths in all of us, but it's up to us to kind of harvest those strengths. You know, I have a choice. If I'm going to harvest what God has put in me, or I'm going to be angry at you because you are harvesting what God has put in me.
And we don't want to be like the old saying, a cow peeping through the fence. And all he do is just stand there and just peek through as big as he is, he could tear down the fence. He's in this big yard, field where he can just graze all the grass that he wants. But he just stay in that one little space and just smoke and just chew, and then he's just there. You know, and he's looking at, in our cases, the cars as they go by, and just think that this is just all there is to me. This is all there ever will be to me. Things will never change. And we're here to tell you today that's not so.
Okay. Now let's talk about how can we move forward. And I think some of this we may have already touched off. Number one, recognizing that you're doing it. Recognizing that you, that you are spending too much time feeling sorry for yourself. You know, and then begin to do something different. You may have to write things down. And you know, it may sound funny, but you may have to, like, okay, I've been wallowing self-pity for a week now. All right. I'm gonna write down from 9 to 2, from 9 to 1, no more wallowing in self-pity. Write down why you're feeling self-pity. Is it because, you know, Missionary Kelly don't like me because I didn't get the raise, or whatever the case is? And then take a look at that list and determine what are the things that you can change. And take a look at what's on your list. Are these things, are they about me? You know, if you were to take your list, if someone were to give you your list, now if you wrote it down, number 1, okay, they fired me. Okay, number 2, they don't like me. 3, I never get a break. Okay, so that's your list.
Everybody on the job was working against me. They were in conspiracy.
They were in conspiracy. Okay, so you got your 4 things. These are the things that you're feeling sorry about.
Mm-hmm.
If someone else were to give you that list, what would your reaction be? You know, okay, man, they're working against me. Ask yourself this question. Why do you think they're working against you? Why do you think it's you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe because, you know, I'm pretty and they're jealous, or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
And when you begin to take a look at your list, you'll find a lot of I statements.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find that the focus is all on you.
A lot of foolishness.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. But what you want to do is take that list and begin to develop, okay, they fired me. And be honest with yourself. Okay, well, why did they fire me? Okay, they didn't like me. That could be one reason. I was too short. Could be another reason. I didn't meet the qualifications. Well, that could be another reason. And you begin to take a look at those things honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And you will come, if you're honest, say, well, you know what? Well, I've been there 10 years. I felt like I should have got the promotion, but the other guy does have a high school diploma. I don't have one. Well, maybe I need to get one.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, they won't have that excuse to use against you the next time.
That's right.
You know? So again, make a list. Realize that you're wallowing in self-pity and begin to do something about it.
And you may ask, why you keep saying make a list? It's something about putting things on paper and seeing it visually that impact us more than just hearing it.
Right. Because you can put it down on paper, you know, and then put it down and then come back and look at it again. You know, and hopefully you can pray over the list. If you have some people around you who are honest, you can ask them, you know, well, why do you think I didn't get the job? You know, why do you think that, you know, these people are conspiring against me? You know, why do you think all of the people, you know, in Montgomery County, that the police continually pull you over all the time? You know,
what are you doing?
Right, exactly.
So pay attention to yourself.
Exactly. You know, and again, it goes back to being honest about what's going on.
No. But don't ask anyone if you don't really want the truth.
Exactly.
Many times, we would go to someone asked me one time, it says, do you like my hair color? I said, well, it doesn't really enhance your complexion. And their mouth dropped. And I said, what's the matter? They said, you just told me. I said, well, you asked me, I was honest with you. If you didn't want me to tell you the truth, then you should not have asked me. Many times we ask, but we really don't want the truth.
That's true. Number 3, realize that you can move forward. You know, and I think that's the big thing for some people with self-pity, is because they think that someone else has something that they can't have. You know, they think that someone else is doing something that they can't do. It may be true. I may not be, you know, a lawyer, president, or a doctor, but I can be happy.
That's right.
You know, I don't have to base my happiness on comparing it with you.
Now, I do want to sort of change that, because you said we can be happy, and happiness can be based according to circumstances.
That's right.
But I want to come to the place of having some real joy.
Exactly. Which just goes beyond happiness.
That's right. That's right. And these things that we're sharing are to help you to, not just you, because it boomerangs even ourselves, to come to a place of realness and knowing real true joy, and not just being happy because of things, but to have joy that even if I don't have the things, I can still have some joy and some peace.
And that's the difference between happiness and joy, right? Happiness is based on things. Joy is based on inward.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Even with or without the things. Number 3, realize it's not hopeless. That things can change. That your life can get better. That God did in fact create you for a purpose. And if you will embrace that purpose will bring you into, like you said, not just happiness, but into joy.
And then you may have to go back and look back from where you've already come from. When situations in your life before you thought you would never get to certain points, and you have. You thought you'd never have this. Thought you'd never ever, never be able to get a car. And I'm looking at the situation now where I've taken my grandson we're on our way to the 3rd time, okay, trying to get his provisional license, and they're little things, and he just looked like his whole world was over. And I said to him, I said, sweetheart, no. I said, well, what I want you to do is thank God that these things have happened here, instead of out on the street, where it could have been a worse situation. It could have been,
somebody's life.
Right.
Yeah.
I said, so instead, you learn this is where you're not doing quite what you need to do here, that you can practice on it, that when you get it, you know what you didn't do and what you needed to do, and in doing that, you can get better at this. He said, oh, okay. And so I'm also saying in the midst of that, and so I said, and he solved it for a little bit, no, you call and make the appointment today for us to go back.
Right.
And I said, it's not so much that you have failed these 2 times, and there were simple things that he failed on. I said, it's not so much those things that you failed on as it is that you're keeping your eye on your goal, and you're going to still go for it. Now, if you give up here and wallow in self-pity, such as we were talking about, getting stuck, I refuse to allow him to get stuck, okay? And so he needed someone else at that time.
So he can get up and try again.
Right, right. And many times people are easier to get into self-pity because they do just what we've been talking about, focus on their self, or they push away and deny those that are there to help them to get out of the rut. Okay? So even in that, if for some reason someone comes along and it seems like, oh, so why this person keep hounding me? Why they so hard on me? Sometimes people see a potential in you that you don't see in yourself because you've been so used to seeing yourself here.
Right.
And you got, as we call it, tunnel vision. You can't see past the tunnel vision. With a horse, they put those blinders on a horse, and a horse can't see anything except what's there, what's in front of them. Well, excuse me, in humans, with our tunnel vision, we barely see what's in front of us, okay? Because when a horse he may see the distance, all right? But when we're stuck in self-pity, all we see is right here. We can't even see a distance.
Exactly.
So we try to encourage you today to come out of the self-pity and move forward.
Because you can move forward. This has been Sister Arnetta Legree and missionary Corinne Kelly of It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach. We want you to know that no matter how it looks like, or what it looks like, this has been It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach with your host, Arnetta Legree and missionary Corinne Kelly. We want you to know that no matter how things look, you do have a God-given purpose for living. God bless you, and good night. Welcome to It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach with your host, Arnetta Legree and missionary Corinne Kelly. We thank you for joining us for part 2 of self-pity. God bless you. So I can put it interjected. Welcome to It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach with your host, Arnetta Legree
and Corinne Kelly. What?
I forgot what I was going to say.
Just pick it up and keep going.
Welcome to It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach, a faith-based organization designed to provide information and support while encouraging hope and faith. You can find out more about us by logging onto our website at www.igbatt.com or giving us a call at 240-432-6763. I'm Arnetta Legree.
And I'm Corinne Kelly.
And welcome to It's Getting Better All the Time. Today, we're going to be talking about the topic of shame.
Shame can be defined by Webster as a painful emotion caused by consciousness of guilt, shortcoming, or impropriety. It's a sense of inferiority. People who have to cope with shame on a regular basis feel as if they are the ones that have a problem, that if they speak up or draw attention to themselves in some way, everyone will know that they have a problem. And we want to encourage you that somewhere along the way, all of us deal with shame. And we want to talk about shame in the negative and the positive tonight.
Because in the negative, shame can be a really painful emotion.
Yes.
I think many of us have had things that have happened to us, or things that are going on with us now, that cause us to be embarrassed, or cause us to not feel good about ourselves, to cause us to feel that it's something that we did to bring whatever is happening to us on ourselves. And we want you to know that unfortunately things do happen in life, but you don't have to be embarrassed. You don't have to feel shame about it. It wasn't your fault, and it is not your fault. So you can move forward despite the shame.
So we want to talk tonight about some ways how shame really can impact us. Number one, shame can cause us to feel angry, to withdraw, to feel resentful of others. Shame can cause us to overcompensate or to try to be perfect in ways of erasing the feelings of shame that we have on side of us. Shame can keep us from acknowledging the fact that we have a problem or situation, and it also can keep us from moving forward and becoming what God wants us to be. And in the midst of that, we were talking about the shame feeling and making you feel angry or withdrawn. Many times the withdrawal is a great one, and it's the thing of withdrawing because we don't want anyone to know. Anybody know this happened to me? And you begin to come out of your personality because you're putting on this facade to impress others for the sake of them not knowing
what's going on with you.
Absolutely.
And when you look at anger, anger is a defense that we use against shame. We get angry to mask how we're really feeling inside. Inside I feel really embarrassed about the fact that maybe I don't have as nice clothes as maybe someone else does. Inside I feel embarrassed about having a mental illness, or I'm embarrassed, ashamed of my parents, so I become angry, I act out. And that anger, again, is just a mask for what's really going on inside. And I think a lot of times when we see someone who is really angry, our first reaction is to become angry back, or just say, oh, that's an angry young man, or that's an angry young woman.
That's a mean child.
Right, exactly. But we have to realize that anger many times is a mask for other emotions.
Absolutely. And
begin to put ourselves in the place of the other person. Really try to understand what's going on with them. Understand them right where they are. Especially when we talk about children a lot of times, they may not come to you and say, this is what's going on. You may get a lot of the anger, a lot of the acting out, and all that is just a cover-up for how they're feeling inside.
And they may not even know how to express how they're feeling, or they haven't had anyone in their life that they feel like they can trust to be able to even share. Because so many times, unfortunately, we live in a society that when we know about fallacies of one another, we want to use them against them instead of showing them how to overcome in the things that they're dealing with.
Right. And just like any other negative emotion, shame can either cause us to move forward, either move forward in God or to not move forward in God. Because we're talking about the negative aspects of shame, it can keep us from being all that God wants us to be. Because many times in our walk, in our life, there will be situations that come up that God will require us to take a risk. And when we use the word risk, we are not talking about any harmful or negative behaviors. We're talking about those things that God may order for our lives to move us out of our comfort zone.
Yeah, Abraham took a risk. The Lord told him to get up and move away from his kinfolk. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't have a MapQuest to show him how to get to where he was going. God just told him to go. And he had to be willing to take the risk. And in that risk that he took, it was trusting God, that God knows what he's doing with my life, and he knows which way to take me, for the Lord knows the way that we take. So there's a difference in just going out there haphazardly, taking risks, and then after you get out there, you wonder, what are you going to do, and with no directions, and not to know. But Abraham had directions from the Lord.
And again, maybe there's someone watching us, maybe you had to give a speech, and the first time you gave a public speech, it didn't go so well. People laughed at you, and after that you're like, I'm not going to do this again. But to keep doing it, keep doing it. But that shame can keep us from our destiny, can keep us from moving forward. And when we allow those feelings of shame to keep us from moving forward, we even become angry at ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
I shared with my Sunday school class on yesterday, I said, learn to laugh at yourself. We all make mistakes. But if you beat yourself, well, sometimes we're too hard on ourselves. And I said, if you can learn to laugh at it yourself, and that laughter would be a cushion, it will help you to get rid of the shame.
Right.
You know, but if you're going to sit there and sulk in it and find out all the reasons and why not, and have the anger, the resentment, the withdrawing and whatever, you make it worse.
Right.
Okay. But if you can look back, it's okay. Yeah, I did do that. You know, and I'm not saying that there are not things in our lives that we really should be ashamed of.
Right, exactly.
There are. And in being ashamed of those things, you know, be ashamed enough not to go back and do it again.
There's no shame in being a abused spouse. I mean, you know, I think many times you may be a person, maybe you're married and your husband is abusive or your wife is abusive towards you, and it's like people look at you, what is wrong with you? You know, you're just so stupid. But there's nothing wrong, there's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, unfortunately things like that happen. You may have been a victim of abuse. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You may be living with a mental illness. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And people may say, listening to me, that you don't know what I'm going through. And I may or may not. But there are people out there who do. Because for every situation, negative situation that you have encountered, I have encountered, there is someone out there who has encountered the same situation and has used that negative situation to turn it into a positive.
And that's how a lot of programs have come about. Because of someone going through something and wanting to be a help to somebody else. And that's what he wants to do with our lives.
Right.
He wants to use, God wants to use every situation that has ever come up in our lives to help somebody else in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But it's, are we willing? You know, are we willing to surrender ourselves to Him and be led of Him to show us which way to go?
Because I've seen situations where people, family members, are living with a mental illness or a spouse or whatever, and people are so embarrassed, they're so ashamed of it, that they literally kill the family because they don't get out and get the help that they need. They don't get out and join groups and talk to people. So they keep everything inside the family. You know, they don't want anybody to know, hey, my child's going through this. So they wear themselves out trying to put up this front. When the reality is, again, there's nothing to be ashamed of. And it's going to take a process of you realizing, you know, in fact, there is nothing to be ashamed of. It's a process to get to the point where I can laugh at myself.
And most things that all of us have endured in our families, somewhere along the way, if it's no more than one, somebody has experienced it, if we be honest with ourselves, you know. We want to feel like that, you know, this is a totally different and unusual family over here because they're going through this. But if you really go back and you look, it may not be right in your generation, but somewhere along the way it's been in there.
Definitely.
And we're not, none of us are exempt from things happening to us.
Exactly, exactly. Number 3, shame can keep us living in the past or in the shadow of what could happen. You know, something happened to me negatively in the past. I go through life trying to cover that up. I don't want people to know my past. I'm embarrassed about what has happened. But by doing that, I'm allowing the past to control my future. I can't be totally free because I'm embarrassed about something that happened a long time ago. I may have a prison record. I don't want anybody to know I was in prison. You know? Or I may, again, been victim of abuse. I don't want anybody to know that. And so I go through life putting up this front. But again, fronts, it takes a lot of work to put up, and sooner or later, they come down.
And then one of the things that happen is if the shame doesn't come out in anger and resentment towards others, I hide it in here, and then I begin to break down my body, begin to be sickly, I begin to have problems, and maybe migraine headaches, it may be depression, it may be some of these, and I'm not saying there isn't a clinical depression, that's not what I mean, but some of the things that people go through is because of just that, you know, not dealing with their shame will even make them deny their own self what has happened.
You know, I can't read well. so I'm ashamed to go get the help that I need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that can be a positive way. You know what? I'm ashamed. I can't read well. You know what? I'm not going to let the shame hold me back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sign up
Mm-hmm.
for an educational class
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So again, shame can be used positively if we will allow it.
Yeah. And many people with, I shouldn't say many, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people that are dealing with a loved one that has a mental illness, and I'm finding out that dealing with things that deal with the mind, we have a tendency, we're in a society where everything is so intellectual
Mm-hmm.
that we would rather not be seen with, we say we love our loved one, but I don't want anybody to see them with me,
Mm-hmm.
see me with them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I don't know what they're going to think, you
Right.
know, or if it's, especially if they're grown,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but if they're a child, you know, you want to keep them in seclusion, you don't want
Mm-hmm.
anybody to, which is very hurtful.
Yeah.
You know, you're bringing on, adding insult to injury.
Mm-hmm.
You're teaching this child more about shame
Mm-hmm.
than they need to know.
Because they internalize it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're causing them to have low self-esteem
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes they're already dealing with and going through with mental things with themselves and trying to decipher what is good
Mm-hmm.
and what is bad. And then I come along and treat them that way
Mm-hmm.
and make them really feel even worse than what they felt before.
Definitely. Another thing that we talk about, again, shame can keep us on the defensive. We go around trying to protect ourselves. You know, we don't want anybody to know that this is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how's your child doing? Okay, well, I don't want to talk about it. You know, oh God, I pray that no one asks me what my child is doing. I pray no one asks me what my wife is doing. Because you don't want to say, well, you know, my wife has a mental illness and she's doing good, but she still has a mental illness. We don't want to be honest because we're embarrassed. We don't want people to know. And again, so for that reason, we're on the defense all the time.
Yeah, they may not be my friend anymore if they know this is what I'm dealing with.
Exactly. And shame, again, all of us, we have in us the ability to overcome anything that we might be dealing with. And I know when I say that, people are, no, not really, we all don't have it. No, we all have it. We all may not have the same gift, or we all may not be able to overcome the same way, but we can all find meaning in our life.
Right.
You know, I may have a mental illness. No, I may not be cured from my mental illness. I may have a other negative situation that I wish I didn't have, but the reality is that I do. And once I begin to accept to have a mental illness, accept the fact whatever the negative situation is, I can begin to move forward and move out of this bondage of shame. Because that's what shame is. It's a bondage. It keeps us hostage. It keeps us held to the past. It keeps us held to putting up all these defenses. You know, it keeps us limited in our lives. Because if I'm afraid to be embarrassed, if I'm ashamed, I'm not going to do but so many things. I'm not going to move but so far because I don't want my secret to come out.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't want people to know whether the case I can't read, I can't drive, I can't, all the different things that I can't do, or the things that I'm trying to hide.
And you know, the interesting part about it though is, as we go along, sometimes in the midst of trying to cover it up, we are totally oblivious to the fact that somebody still knows. And I'm thinking while you're talking of an incident when someone was a dear friend of mine and something the person did, and I had to figure a way to ask them the question, not could they, but how well did they read. So we still need to know in dealing with someone when we recognize that they're trying to cover up something, how to be able to reach out to them without making them feel more shameful and condemned in the situation that they're dealing with. So when I asked them, the person, how well, and they says, I don't read very well. I said, okay. I said, we can work with that.
Right.
And they looked at me and it was almost amazement to them because in the past, that's not how they were treated with it. If they were made fun of, they were put down for it and made mockery of almost through it. And in dealing with the person, I would take time out to show little things to them, to show them. My attitude with them was recognize, first of all, that I'm your friend. and I'm here to help you,
Right.
okay? And if you can deal with me on those, because see, it's going to take something on both parts. Excuse me, if you can deal with me on that level and not think about the shame and the embarrassment and the condemnation that you had before with going through this, and I don't intend to hurt you. Now we have to realize that each one of us are human,
Exactly.
and sometimes we can still do things not quite the right way, you know, to help someone. We can be sincerely wrong.
Right.
But in helping them, the person began to realize that I really wasn't, they had to gain my trust to know that I wasn't going to hurt them, you know, and to be able to help them through this situation that they were dealing with. So even though they could not themselves read as well as they needed to and wanted to, they would ask me, could you just read this for me? Okay, so saying I couldn't put myself out there as a friend for them, and then when they come with you, I don't be bothered with you. I don't have time to do that for you. So it's a sacrifice on both parts. Okay, and I use that example because you use the reading. Okay, there's another situation where
and we use a lot of different examples because we realize there are a lot of people that's watching us or listening to us who are dealing with a lot of different things, you know. And I think sometimes maybe because I can read, I forget that there are some people who can't.
That's right.
You know, just because I have a job, there are people who don't have a job. You know, so again, we try to open it up and use a lot of different experiences because there are a lot of different people listening to us.
Right. Even the one that you use, you know, about having gone to jail, you know, and I say to some people, I'm never going, nobody's going to understand, you know, they're not going to give me a job. And have you given yourself the chance? Get to the place that you get past the shame of it and sell yourself, okay? And, you know, in that situation I'm still kind of working with, but because they have to have their self-esteem built up.
Right, exactly.
You know, so
there's always a way.
Yeah, so, but how much are we willing to give of ourselves to help the next person? And this is what it's all about. You know, we talk, as she said about, as Starnetta said, a lot of things on this TV broadcast, and because there's a broad horizon of situations that are going on. You know? And one may deal with it one way and somebody might deal with it another, but all of us can glean to be able to help one another, that we can all overcome things that we're going through.
And the thing is, well, how do I overcome shame? You overcome it one situation at a time by not letting situations hold you back. If there's something comes up that you want to do or you feel led to do, just go ahead and do it. You're not going to do it perfectly the first time. You are going to have a lot of insecurities the first time, but you do it the second time, the third time, the fourth time. The more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it. The better you become with it, the less self-conscious you become.
Same thing with, you know, when you get out there and a child with a bicycle, you know, we know that all they know is they want to ride the bicycle. Okay, they have no idea, and it looks exciting. They see someone else on it, and they're having a good time and enjoying it. You know, the wind just blowing them as they go along on this bicycle, and that's all they see. Okay, but they don't realize that first they have to start with some training wheels, and sometimes because they're excited and full of zeal, they think they can do it, and they don't need any help. You know, they get out there and they fall down, and they realize, oh, it's a little more to this than what I anticipated. Then they're willing to come back. So even in that, you know, we can get frustrated. Wouldn't we do the same thing when they tie a shoe? I remember, you know, trying to help someone. I can do it, and they want to tie the shoe, and they're going to show me they could do. Had no clue to what to do. But in their mind, because they had sit and watch, it's amazing. We can look at somebody else do something and just think we automatically know it. But they didn't know the mechanics of it. And so I had to wait.
But they learned the mechanics as they did it as time went on.
But I had to wait. Still had to wait for them to go through their fussing and their frustrated and sitting down and going to show me that they can do it for themselves. And then when they settled down, I said, okay, now let me show you. But we do that And I was getting ready to say with children, and sometimes people don't even do it with children, you know, but in most cases, we don't have the patience that we need to deal with someone to help them come out of their shame.
And we don't even have the patience to deal with ourselves sometimes. You know, I mentioned the fact that sometimes you may just have to do it, and the more you do something, the better you get at it. But it's a process, even to get to that point. For some people, you can't do it. You may need to talk with someone. You may need to sit down with your pastor, with your therapist, a counselor, a friend, and that's okay. To talk through what's really going on. To talk through what is hindering you, what's holding you back. You know, shame is just one emotion. Oftentimes there's a root that's attached to shame. And by sitting down and talking to someone, you can maybe kind of come to the realization of what really is holding you back. And you may need to talk with someone for a period of time before you can get to the point where you can begin to take steps. And so again, there are many different ways to overcome shame. And what might work for me may not work for you. So I want you to understand that, again, you don't want to get into comparing yourself with someone else. You know, for some people, it's real easy for them to get up and talk to 1,000 people. There are some people who have been the victims of abuse, just horrific abuse. Yes. But for them, they deal with it differently. They're able to talk about it. They're public speaking. They're able to share it. You may not be able to, and that's okay. You don't have to compare yourself with someone else. But just know that you do have a purpose and that there is a recovery process for you. Your process may be different from someone else, but there is a process. You can begin to take steps. There may be baby steps. You may take one. Exactly. You may take one step this month. You may not be able to take another step until next year. You may have setbacks in between, and that's okay. The thing is that you keep telling yourself, you know what, I don't want to live like this. I'm going to get some help. And then, like I said, there are plenty of people out there, whether it's therapists, pastors, friends, who you can talk to if you need to do that, and that's okay. You know, whether you're Christian, not Christian, or whatever, you know, you can do that. And I think that's important.
So, you know, what we're doing, we want to encourage you to, if you're dealing with the shame of your past or something that you're even in right now, you need to today make a commitment to yourself that I will not be in this state any longer, and begin to get some strategies to take you forward to get out of it. But the first thing you need to do is recognize, yes, you are in a shame situation. And number two, make the commitment to be able to move forward.
And that's what it's going to take, is just making the commitment in your mind. You know, and then once you make it up in your mind, then that's part of the battle. That's half the battle right there.
That's right.
Because then once you make it up in your mind that I'm not going to sit here and allow myself to be limited by past thoughts, then you can begin, like we said before, to take those steps, baby steps, half steps, whatever steps. You know?
And I want to encourage you to don't let your pride get in the way. If you need to talk to someone, all of us need someone in our lives to be able to talk to. You know, it's something else, something different, you know, because my thoughts, I have nothing to what's the word I'm looking
balance.
For? Right, my thoughts. All right, they're my thoughts, okay? And I can convince my thoughts are the best thoughts.
Right.
All right. But if I have someone say, wait a minute, let's evaluate what you just said. Let's talk about it. And sometimes just talking to someone, being able to vent, brings me, and it's like it's a relief. It's like, you know, it's not that you're dumping your mess onto someone else. We don't want you to feel that way either.
Right.
But now that I got it out, I feel so much better. I feel relief. You'll be amazed at the weight that will come off of your shoulders, the heaviness that will be relieved from your heart, the stress that will be destroyed in your mind by being able to share.
And sometimes, even after you share, the situation may still be the same, but your thoughts have changed. Like you said, you get that relief. So the person you talk to, well, I don't want to go talk to them. They don't have the answer. But sometimes the answer is lies, and you just being able to talk about it.
That's right.
You want to close it out?
Okay. So, as we said tonight, you know, again, it's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach. You can reach us on www.igbatt.com or 240-432-6763. Really looking forward to hearing from you. As always, we're glad for and thank you for taking the time to hear us on tonight. We do believe that something has been said to help you to make some great changes in your life, be able to move forward and come forward in the God-given purpose for your life. Thank you. God bless you, and good night.
Amen. Bless you. We're going to save